In pathos, we encounter indeterminacy, an encounter that erupts into the event of autopoiesis. The origin Kant hinted at as the unknown root of the faculties is then expressible only in the ambiguous voice of the middle. As Sherman states, quote, "In our languages, verbs in the middle voice always lead their speaker out of simple nominative lawmaking," unquote. That is, determinative thinking. The event of its happening expresses the two indispensable moments of being, indeterminacy and determination, the auto-determination of the indeterminate. Unconcealment in Heidegger is a middle-voiced event. So is the formless forming itself, or determination without determiner in Nishida. For Nishida, as we act upon what we see in accordance with how we act. A process of embodied interactivity he calls inactive intuition, poietic chokan. Miki identified the formative faculty of imagination with inactive intuition, but our acting in the world, shaping it, is also the world's own self-shaping, whereby we are creative elements of the creative world. In partaking in the worlding of the world, we act, but with an element of contingency and unpredictability in accord with the middle-voiced event. This is also the sense behind the it that gives in the German es gibt, which the later Heidegger focuses on. So the next section is the indeterminate as the nothing. If we take the root of being to be thus irreducible to any entity, it is not a thing. The auto-realizing reality as undefined and indeterminate is thus described in different traditions and thinkers as nothing, no thing, nothingness. Nishida, for example, designates it as the place of nothing, munobasho, that is neither being nor non-being. The determination of the indeterminate for him is a reflection of reality within a self-illuminating mirror at the abyssal depth of the nothing, enveloping endless mirrors reflecting themselves in one another. Both the ego and the world of objects are thus displaced within this ongoing process of reflection that he calls seeing without a seer, or determination without a determiner. The early Miki called the formless chaos that demands formation the dark, yami. And in the later period, borrowing Nishida's terminology, also calls it the nothing, mu. Since the nothing precedes its determination into the opposition of being or non-being, affirmation and negation, I call this nothingness ontological / ontological. We can discern in other thinkers the theme of the indeterminate or the infinite, qua nothingness that finitizes itself into beings. Izutsu Toshihiko, who was another Japanese philosopher, notices how in both Zhuangzi's idea of heavenly leveling and Ibn al-Arabi's idea of the unity of existence, wadat al-wujud, reality is reduced to an originary process of existence without substance, quality, or delimitation, whereby it is no longer a thing but a no thing, the most indeterminate of all indeterminates. The world, in turn, is the locus for its inexhaustible self-determination. In Shingon Buddhism, founded by Kukai, it is the primal non-origination, or originally unborn, Hompusho. If we follow Mahayana thought informing Kukai, every phenomenon arising in interdependence is empty of substantiality, that is, of ontological independence. For Duns Scotus, in Heidegger's reading, divine being, esse divinum, as the infinite one, unum infinitum, is ultimately undifferentiated, even as it is everywhere immanent, whereby each creature is a theophany. God is everything, yet not a thing. Being is God, esse est Deus, but its oneness, preceding differentiation, is not, quote, neither this nor that, free of all names and naked, apart from all forms, unquote, is a dark and hidden abyss, or unground, abgrund. In Being and Time of 1927, Heidegger writes that, quote, the being of beings, das Sein des Seienden, is not itself a being, ein Seiendes, and cannot be conceived as a being. A little later, he says that the nothing, nichts, belongs to the very being of what is. And when he directs his attention to the world as ontologically fundamental, he writes, quote, "The world is nothing. The world, a nothing, nichts. Not a being, kein Seiendes, and yet something. Nothing that is, nichts Seiendes, but being, sein," unquote. More recently, Sherman characterizes the event of being as anarchic, and speaks of the anarchy rooting both givenness and spontaneity as the no greater than the yes that envelops the double bind of birth and death in their contingencies, the push towards universal lawmaking and the pull of singular givens. That's his understanding of natality and mortality, Sherman's understanding. The nothing envelops being as anarchic presencing / absencing, envelops archic modes of presence, and indeterminacy envelops determinations. Indetermination, thus, is an-ontological. And due to its origin, determination remains shot through, permeated with indeterminacy, so that determination cannot but fail to complete its task. Realizing this, these thinkers and traditions have learned to see reality simultaneously as determined and indeterminate, many in one, being and nothing, with compound eyes. Next section is